Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Investor Lab, the auditory epicenter for passionate people seeking a life of freedom, choice, and abundance. And on today's episode, you better be seeking some transformation as well. So on today's show, we had a couple more humans from Dashdot. So we spoke with Nicky and Natalie, who form part of our advisory team, and they're the people that help people go through a transformational moment before they become a client of Dashdot. And so some of you may have spoken with Nicky and Natalie before, and some of you may speak with Nicky and Natalie in the future. So this is a really awesome episode because we go kind of deep and wide and all over the place. We obviously talk about Nicky and Natalie's journey, their property background, or with their personal story and all that kind of stuff. But we also go into a bit of spirituality and what it means to be transformational and how all that stuff happens. And I thought it was really good. A slightly longer episode than normal, but there's loads of gold in there. So if you're ready to take your thinking to another level and you want to connect deeply with yourself and also get to know a hell of a lot more about Nicky and Natalie along the way, then this is the episode for you. You don't need to know who they are to get gold out of this episode. So I'm thoroughly excited to get your feedback on this. If you have any feedback, send us an email to TIL, that's TIL, stands for the Investor Lab, TIL@dashdot.com.au, so DASHDOT. If you've got any questions you'd like answered on the show, just send us an email, TIL@dashdot.com.au. And of course, remember to like, rate, review, and share this with a family member, friend, or loved one. And without any further ado, let's get stuck right on into it. I'll see you on the inside. Hey guys, welcome back to the Investor Lab. Joining me today is two very special guests, Natalie Armstrong and Nicky Glover, affectionately called here at Dashdot Strong Love, which is an amalgamation of their last names. I'm super excited to have you guys on the show. Natalie, Nicky, welcome. How are you?
Oh, thanks, Goose.
Yeah, thanks.
Super excited to be here, and thanks for having us. I'm
excited to be on this side of the podcast rather than listening to it.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. I'm interested to dig in. There's a lot of stuff to talk about today, but part of this, the Humans of Dashdot series, is really trying to help people to understand who is Dashdot really, because a lot of people see me talking and stuff like that. They think that I'm Dashdot. I'm like, it's got nothing to do with it. It's all you guys. So I'm interested to dig in a little bit more. But before we do that, I'd love for you guys to introduce yourselves to people. I know that there's two of you, so we're going to be doing these. It's a little bit harder to ask questions of two people, but let's try and we'll navigate this. So tell us individually, collectively, who are you? What do you do at Dashdot? How does that help people? Kind of give people some optics. Who are you guys?
Cool. Well, I'm Natalie. I'm the Natalie in the Nicky and Natalie show. We both. So there's a bit of sharing. We both head up the sales and advisory team here at Dashdot. So, but we've got a sort of split role. I'm both an advisor and also sales coaching and advisory coaching. Keeping our team as in the forefront as absolutely possible. Absolutely love the role, but we'll go more into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I want to dig into that because there's some pretty unique stuff going on there. So I want to dig into that and really give people clarity on what that is, how we think about it, all of that kind of stuff. So we'll dig into that. But Nicky, what about you?
Right. Hi, I'm Nicky, and I'm co-lead the advisory team with Natalie. And essentially we help people, we help to work out, can we help people? And if we can, how could we move forward together?
Yeah, awesome. So this is really cool, right? I'm really excited to have you guys on the show because we have obviously quite a lot of clients, but you guys have touched the lives of almost all of them, right? There is a bigger team and all of that kind of stuff, but like I would say the majority, over 50%, you two have spoken with, right, personally, and been part of that transformational journey and all of that kind of stuff. So it's wicked, right? So that's what I'm excited to dig in, actually. And so why don't we kind of talk about what do you guys actually do? Like when someone actually ends up speaking to you guys, so for the benefit of the listener, if you wanted to work at Dashdot, you would speak to Nicky or Natalie, or there are a couple of other people in the team as well, but you'll also speak to another advisor. So what the hell goes on? What is their role? What do you do? What's the moment? Why do they talk to people like you?
it's a piece of transformation. It's taking, someone that's, come across you often and, in a podcast or a video or somewhere on Facebook, and really supporting people to integrate the journey and integrate that this is a reality. And then what we actually do is help people, go through a transformational journey, as well as we provide strategy and give people absolute clarity about what it would look like if they worked with Dashdot and the kind of results, and just supporting people to get over the line if we're in alignment.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting piece there, right? And I'm happy that we're talking about it, because what tends to happen, and you guys will know this, I'm happy to, let's talk to it, right? What tends to happen is that people aspire to have a better life, right? But inherently they're scared, right? And inherently everything that we want in life is on the other side of our comfort zone, right? So inherently there's fear, doubt, confusion, uncertainty, all of that kind of stuff, because if they didn't have any of that, they'd probably be where they want to be already. Like, you'd be there, right? That's the whole point, right? So when people come and, want to work with Dashdot, the thesis that they have in their mind is, if I do this, I'm hoping that I'm going to get better life. But there's also a lot of risk, because they're like, what if it doesn't work? And there's like all that kind of stickiness of like, shit, is it going to work for me? How am I, does this actually work? Now, a really interesting thing about what we do collectively as we help grow this business together and share the same ethos and values and all of that kind of stuff is try and create a moment, whether they work with us or not, to create that transformation and to create that certainty and that clarity. And then if, and only if, it's a good fit for everyone involved, then we decide to work together. But what I actually really love about what you guys do is that when people arrive in that moment, it may not be the right fit to work with us, but they walk away with the certainty and the clarity to know what is going to be right for them and what their next step looks like. And I think that's really cool. Do you guys kind of want to talk to that a little bit? Because it's really interesting to kind of dig into it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really great. Great question, great topic. And, I think most people, when they come and start, their journey or they're looking around and they're wanting to get started, I think mostly, I reckon, probably 80-90% of people have the financial capacity to move forward. But the thing that stops people is, what's between their two ears, and all the things that you spoke to, which is the fear, the doubt, the what if it goes wrong. And so it's our job to help people to kind of reflect and go, well, where are you at right now in your life? Where do you want to be? So it's an opportunity to help people to start to crystallize what it is they want to create and move towards, and then figure out, well, are we going to be a good fit to help you do that? If we are, fantastic, we'll talk about next steps. If not, that's cool. We bring value and help people to get clarity on what that piece is.
It's also a big responsibility.
Yeah.
It might not seem like it on the outside, but it actually is. We're helping people.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, firstly, to be on this side of Dashdot with, initial client facing is such a responsibility, and to bring with it, a business that is actually true and integrous, which sits behind us. It means everything when we're having a conversation. There is no BS. There is no out of integrity. What we say is, typically what we deliver, and sometimes mostly better. And so having that behind us really supports the level and quality of our conversation, and the ability to help stand in position and help people over the line, and knowing that we're doing the right thing, and a really good thing when it's good for them.
When it's right, because like what we do at Dashdot is obviously very specialized.
Yeah,
what we do is not for everyone. And so. Yeah. Being able to decipher that and give people that clarity to move forward. And that's where I think where the responsibility piece comes in, because, there's a real moment there which will change people's lives.
Yeah.
And it could change it for the better, or it could change it for the worse. But it's like every single one of those conversations does have literally that weight. It's like, okay, here's a fork in the road. Here's a sliding doors moment. And which way is this going to go? And me personally, because obviously as before you guys came on board, I was doing what you were doing. I was meeting with all of the potential clients on a one-to-one basis, assessing where they're at, understanding their hopes, dreams, desires, needs, fears, and wants, trying to work out, can we actually help them to get there? And then what does that pathway look like? What does the bridge look like? And then does it feel like we're going to be able to work together for the next 10 years? And so I deeply know that weight. And I used to stay awake at night if I didn't feel like I'd served people very well. I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe that person is now going to go and make a bad decision and probably never achieve their goals. And I would literally, I would be devastated because I hadn't been able to help someone. So I think it's a really beautiful position to have in the business. And it's so connected. And so I think it's like a genuinely deeply emotional position to hold in the business. So
absolutely.
Just as you were saying that, the sliding doors moment, one of the things that I consciously bring to conversations that I have with people, whether sometimes I do speak this to people, but it's like, I want this conversation to be one that you remember.
Yes.
For the rest of your life, like in a positive way, obviously.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to look back and go, that conversation I had with Nicky or Natalie or one of our other team was the one that turned my life around and set it on a great trajectory.
Yeah. That's awesome, because I can, as you were saying that, I was thinking back to times where I have sought help from other people and had that moment. Like I can specifically remember a few calls that I've had, which were the moment of me like committing to do something, whether it was I can remember specifically, there was a course that came with some coaching. I remember where I was doing, what happened, how I felt. And that was it was a life-changing moment right when we were starting the business. And I remember another one more recently where I first met with a mentor, and like that moment, and that those moments, it's like, oh, that's one of them. Like that's one of those inflection points in life. And then, that's really, really cool.
And I've been in that exact position. So we've been on the other side. So it's really helpful. This position. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's kind of get to know a bit more about you guys though, because, I'm interested to know, speaking of sort of sliding doors moments, I'm interested to know how you guys ended up here. Like, what is your sort of background? Like, how did you two get to this moment right here, right now?
Well, we're some of the oldest at Dashdot, so it might be a slightly longer story, but we can quicken it.
I like to say I think we're the elders of Dashdot. She says you're old. I'm like, I'm an elder.
Yeah. All right, you go first.
Well, how did I get here? So I think, winding back, so I grew up in Sydney, eastern suburbs, around Bondi. My grandparents, I'm going back, grandparents came out from like Poland before the war, and, sort of a migrant family, that scenario, and built up a life here. And I had I kind of came out of school, in my earlier life, I was a sporting champ. I was a fencer, and I actually fenced at, world level.
I didn't know that about you, Nicky.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So
the precision to detail.
Exactly. And one of my hidden, I read some of the questions before, and one of them was like, what's one thing people might not know about you, like a quirky something? And it's like, I really like to sharpen knives.
Oh, that's right. No wonder you like.
I love sharp knives. Right. Anyway, it's probably back from my fencing days. I was a competitive fencer. I absolutely loved it. I learned so much about life and being in the game of life and stepping onto the piste and having a go, having a crack. So coming off the back of that, I was a muso for a while, so I'm a singer and performer. And then off the back of that, I did some marketing. I studied marketing, and I traveled. I lived overseas for a while, and I came back, and just as the sort of web was just taking off, I got my first job as an HTML coder. I literally knew nothing, but I went into the interview for the job, and I literally had written out hello world like in some code, which is like the most basic thing. And of course, the people that were interviewing me did not know code, so they thought that I knew what I was talking about. Anyway, got my first gig, and then from there I kind of rolled into a 20-year career as a digital producer, which is essentially making websites, doing all that sort of end-to-end marketing and implementation and execution. So it's probably why sort of fast forwarding to now, I guess my role as far as leading the advisory team is more around like execution and process and systems and making sure everything's set up for our team and for our clients, obviously, and getting everything right there. But yeah, winding back a little.
Yeah, I was going to say the piece you missed.
The piece I missed was, I think, through that, Natalie and I met about 7 years ago, and we got together about 6 years ago. And then rolling from that, we had our own coaching business. Natalie was a coach. I'll let you speak to that a bit.
Yep.
And we ran an amazing coaching business for a little while. Things happened, wheels fell off, and we both kind of thought, okay, out of this, what's the way that we could bring value, the most value out of the whole sort of process of somebody coming on board into a business? Where could we really bring the most value? And that was the area of, advising people and, sales and helping people to get over the line. I suppose there's that transformation element. And so that's what really lights me up, is having those conversations. And so from the back of that, I worked with one of, a leading business coach. For a while, I was working there, and then found myself in the property space. And so I was working with the previous investment group before Dashdot, and then Natalie basically jumped in first with Dashdot. I'll let you tell the story. Pulled me over, and here we are.
Nice. Well, and Natalie, before you, because I'm interested to dig into some property stuff with you guys, because the transformation piece is pretty evident. Like, you had a coaching business and all of that kind of stuff, and you guys are pretty on that side of life on wanting to create those transformations. And I'm interested to link that back then to property. But I want to do that in a second. So Natalie, why don't you kind of give us the synopsis of your backstory?
I was sort of I was born in the Gong. For anyone that doesn't know that, it's Wollongong. And my dad was a builder. He had his own building company, so like Masterton Homes on a smaller scale. And so I was in the back of his ute going out to building sites there for a while as a child. And then, growing up, seeing plans on kitchen tables and starting to actually even, create and design houses with my dad. So I've had sort of, and then always moving homes, building a new home and moving home. So property's sort of been in my blood. It wasn't necessarily in my DNA, but it was definitely in my blood. I went on to, travel the world and not settle down for a while and not really get into property for myself for a little while. There's my doggie. She's joining us.
Nice. That's good. What's her name?
Her name's Bella.
Hey, Bella, welcome to the podcast.
And from there, I was a creative. And so I went into creative arts, and I ended up creating my own. I sort of bypassed a few years where I was in advertising and marketing myself. But the main, place I started in was, I always knew I was going to have my own business. I had business in my blood. That was in my DNA, business and conscious business and aligned business. And I was on a journey to uncover that. And so I actually started a fashion business, a fair trade, ethical fashion business. And I used to work in India, and in Bangladesh, I actually started an ethical sewing centre with a huge charity over there. Fast forward a little bit, that business got sold. I ended up being really taking the awareness and skills that I had and becoming a coach, a leadership coach, and really supporting leaders to unlock their leadership, radical responsibility, and lead businesses that were aligned. And then we met and we started working together, which was freaking awesome. And that took us to another level. But soon after, I actually got really ill, and my body collapsed. A bit of pressure, but also just something was going on with my body. I collapsed. The business kind of fell down for a little bit, or we actually closed it down. And I had to uncover what was next. And I had a friend in the property investing space. And I reached out. I actually started working in that space with him. I'd actually previously bought properties through this person. And then it sort of rolled into what it is today. Here at Dashdot, those businesses didn't align. I was looking for an aligned business in property and I didn't know if it existed. And it was like,
you saw that ad.
I saw an ad for this role and I could not believe it. I knew exactly what and who you and Gabby were as soon as I read that ad.
And I recognized it. Came to me, she said, look at this, like, look at this. And I went, that is like, that's literally you. Like, that's that role, that.
I think a lot of people say that when they read the ads for these.
We're very specific. We're very specific about who is right here. Like, there has to be a certain level of connectedness and, personal, spiritual growth, all of this kind of stuff in order to work. And so, yeah, we do get that, but the benefit is we get the right people like you guys, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
So I'm interested. Why property, right? Because you guys have kind of like done the business kind of thing, like the whole kind of like advertising, marketing, into business coaching, cool. And now property. Now I know that personally, you guys have, before Dashdot, had some experience in buying, selling properties and stuff like that. I know that that's been in your background. We don't need to dig too far there, but why property? Why do you feel like this works in line with your values and your desire for that transformation piece? I mean, why property? Why don't we start there?
I've got something on the tip of my tongue. Like when our business was everything, I was like, that was my portal. I was going to become amongst changing the world, I was going to become a millionaire through my business. Not that it was a main focus, but, create my wealth there. And then I collapsed and I had nothing at that stage because I'd left a marriage and properties. That was gone. And now I had no foundation. So, I mean, there's more to it, and I'll let you speak in a minute, but that's definitely a huge one. I need, stability, foundations, something to be able to, this is the most reliable investment that I know of that, is commonly.
I was going to say something pretty similar in that, I think the one area that I haven't yet mastered is the area of like wealth. And setting myself up, I'm in my early 50s. I'm 53. I'm going to be 54 in a couple of months, which is just nuts. I've had, I've had homes, I've had property, and then I also went through divorce about 7 years ago, and essentially have been starting again ever since. And so the first sort of.
This is a good episode for the late bloomers or people that feel like they're the late bloomers.
Yeah.
Totally. So it's one area that I haven't yet mastered, and I think property is fantastic. Kind of, it's the most, as I said, most reliable asset class that you can get into to create wealth, and most predictable, laying solid foundations, but also it's like the physical manifestation of the metaphysical desire to create something that grows in and of itself, and not just of our own volition and our own work
and our own energy and relying on, and some, I couldn't rely on my body for a while. We can rely on investments.
It's really interesting, right? Because, and look, we obviously don't just help business owners, but in the context of like business and property, like business is an active sport. Like if you don't show up, if you don't hit the field, right, you're going to lose the game. Simple, right? You can't sub out. Like, you've got to play the game, and if you stop playing the game, you lose the game. It's really simple. So you can win bigly, but also it's high risk. And the reason it's high risk is because it is so sensitive to the individuals involved, which is personally why I have had such a focus on building out a world-class team, because I'm like, well, I can't rely on me. Like, I can't be all on this guy, right? We need to build something that's going to, if I drop dead next week, the business would continue to self-sustain. And that's, thanks to people like you, and also other people that have been on the show, people like Nick and a whole bunch of other people in the team who are carrying that with integrity forward. Like, that's been a big focus. But just on that piece around, like, kind of getting that foundation, I like to think about it like hitting save, right? Hitting save on life, right? If you can kind of get that initial, kind of base, right? That initial kind of thing there. And then if you did nothing else, like, you're kind of okay, right? And I typically kind of see hitting save as probably around 4 properties, right? If you can kind of get to 4 properties, it doesn't matter whether you're 20 or whether you're 50, If you can kind of get to 4 properties, maybe that's not going to create all of the, things that you hope, dream, desire for rivers. It's not going to do that, but it is probably going to set you up with enough of a base that you're going to be good, right? And so once you do that and you hit save, then it's like, oh, now I can breathe and now I have choice. And I know I caught up with one of our clients a couple of weeks ago, and he hit that point recently. He had 1 property, then came to work with us. We bought 3 in like 12 months. He then had a baby, and now he's just like, he feels so confident in life. And he's got a coaching business. Sometimes it's a little volatile, but he feels so confident in life, knowing that he's like kind of got that other stuff sorted. So now he's moving to the Gold Coast. He's like, can focus on quality of life, quality of like all of these other transformational things that happen even before you hit that kind of like financial freedom kind of point.
I feel so much more calm and less anxious just knowing that that's there. We're going to hit our 3rd property this year.
Awesome. That's so good. That's so good.
Our 2nd, we will be moving on to our 3rd this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys recently bought an investment property through Dashdot. You guys went through the process.
We did.
We're only buying through Dashdot.
We did. We literally, of course. We bought a great property. It's positively cash flowed. It's tenanted. It's got it's subdividable potentially down the track. Like, it's awesome.
Awesome.
And we've kicked off. We've got pre-approvals for our 2nd property, and everything is underway in terms of the search. So we literally just kicked off that. So that literally happened almost right off the back of settling on the first one. We were already kind of ready to go. The way that the process, the team helped us, made it all happen. It was so smooth. It was so awesome. Yeah. And now we've literally got that momentum. And we were like, as soon as we knew we'd landed on the first one, we were like, okay, how quickly can we get to the second one? Let's go. And with the way that it works and with the guidance of the team, we're rocking. It's so exciting. But the cool thing, the coolest thing is now when we speak to people, we're speaking from firsthand experience. It's not like, oh, it's over there for our clients. It's actually, hey, well, and when I went through, I've literally just bought my first property with my partner. We're on to our second one. I know the process. So when they're asking questions, it's coming from firsthand, and it's direct experience beats everything. It trumps everything. The level of in terms of trust and building that trust in the conversation.
To be honest, it's the same for me, right? Which sounds really funny, right? So Gabby and I started the business, and then we couldn't buy any properties for like 2 years because, you've got to get your business finances together and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we started this business, and then everyone's like, okay, so you guys buying properties? And I'm like, we can't do it. And so it was like this real challenge. It was a mental challenge I had to get through because I knew that we could help people. And it didn't matter what was going on in my life. But then we passed that threshold, kind of like you guys, right? Because, in the kind of same time frame, past that threshold, then it was like, oh my God, we can buy properties again now. We're about to buy our 3rd in this year, 12 months, right? Basically. So this financial year, we're about to buy our 3rd. And you guys are hitting basically the same kind of cadence, right? Yeah. Gabby and I also went through the process. We said, okay, well, we've got the team here. I'm not going to go do it. So we went through the process. We had the momentum call. We did the whole thing. We just lent into the team, which is really funny because we've built, designed, and all of this kind of stuff. But now that I've gone through the process, I talk about it in a different way to people. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I just had the experience of going through the process like a client, and it was even better than I realized. And it's it's quite funny coming from that perspective. So no, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. We're very excited about it all.
Awesome. So, you guys speak to a lot of people about property, right? And obviously, the reason that you're able to talk to people about property is because you've had property experience before you even came to Dashdot. Like, you've worked for other investment firms, you've had personal experience buying and selling property. It's not your first rodeo, even though you guys are just rebuilding your portfolio now. It's certainly not the first time around the block. I'm interested to know what are some of the challenges that you see, having spoken to hundreds of people now, probably? What do you kind of see are the challenges that people face when they come and speak to you, or sort of, I guess another way to put it, what are the common challenges people normally face on a property investment journey?
The first thing that comes to mind, there's other things you might want to speak to, Nicky, but the first thing that came to my mind was skepticism of this market.
Totally. It's grimy as hell. This whole industry is grimy as hell, right? Yeah.
There's some interesting characters in this space.
Yeah.
And it's not all, and it can be smoke and mirrors. And so helping people to decipher what is smoke and mirrors and supporting people to understand and trust when you're just speaking to them on the phone or on a Zoom call, helping them, to see and understand that this is the real deal. That's actually, and helping people. So I'm speaking about Dashdot in particular, but helping people. I truly do believe in Dashdot. Helping people understand the difference and the quality and the level of integrity and the results and the consistency. Those things stand out for me. But there is some other, obviously, different fears that you might want to speak to, Nicky.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece is that people want to feel like, is there actually a way out of the grind?
Yeah. I like to call it the quicksand. I call it a quicksand because you constantly feel like you just can't, no matter how hard you try, you're just stuck.
Yeah. So helping people to get out of that inertia or that quicksand, right? So we reach and give them a hand up and help them actually get some, it's getting that momentum and knowing that, well, even if it's not 20 properties in the next 10 years, even if your capacity and your income and your family situation, even if it's, 1 or 2 or 3 properties is going to be better than 0, right? You're going to be in a better position.
Totally.
Building your wealth. Yeah. So it's giving people that's like, well, one thing's for sure, if you do nothing right now, nothing will change. Like, it won't be there. So it's helping people to sort of reflect on, well, if you do nothing, what's the opportunity cost of doing nothing? And also, which I know you've spoken to a lot in various podcasts, which is super critical. And then also helping them to hope again and to get focused and to start getting focused. One of the things that I thought was so incredible about the journey Natalie and I went on with Dashdot to acquire our first investment property was how quickly it all happened when we got laser clear and focused on what we were doing and that we were going for it. When we were almost there with our capital, when we were almost there and we just hit the go button, and then everything happened very, very quickly.
And that's our role. We can help people crystallize that in a moment. And take them on that journey.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so with all of that in mind, with everything you just said in mind, what advice or insights or, in fact, insider knowledge could you share with someone who's thinking about working with Dashdot but might be sitting on the fence?
Great question.
Yeah, great question. We're answering this sort of stuff every day. I think it's...
What's the inside scoop? What are people, someone who's listening to this podcast, and if they're just like, property, company, whatever... Like what's the insight? What's something that you think that people don't know that happens on the inside that actually matters?
Said this to a guy yesterday because he was like going and speaking to a couple of other companies. I said, look, I don't know who you're speaking with, so I'm not speaking about another company in particular, but I want you to check these things. I gave him our numbers. So our return on investment, our average growth, our average yields, and the level of consistency that we're showing up in those spaces. And to check, like double check, where against what we're speaking to, against what are other people saying, and double checking, are they revealing everything? Are they actually revealing everything? There's a lot.
I think what you're pointing to is there's 2 things that we really focus here at Dashdot. We absolute focus and committed to. One is results for our clients, and secondly is the experience that our clients have. That they have an incredible experience along the journey, right? And so what I'd say to people who are sitting on the fence out there is, you can't do this alone. Like, you can have a crack and you could get lucky, but if you want to build a prolific, profitable portfolio that generates, wealth, that grows your money, that sets you up for a life of freedom, choice, and abundance, then you need a team around you. You need to get some help and expert advice. And so my advice off the back of that is, think about you've got one life. Time is the only resource you can never, ever get back. So you've got to leverage yourself, and you've got to build a team around you to help you, like, leapfrog across and collapse time on getting to, and getting started.
And then is it a one-horse pony? Is that a thing? It's not. We're not here just for the one property and see you later and go and hide in a corner just in case it doesn't happen. We're going to show our face. We're going to be here, and we're here to really bring, to craft a portfolio.
Yeah. I think you actually, Nicky, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, because I think like the results, I don't think that's insider knowledge, because people know all about that. People know that, in fact, people think they see all of our results and think we're lying, they're so good. So kind of people like kind of know about the results. But I actually think, and I'm thinking this through as I didn't have this preloaded before I asked the question, but I've just been thinking it through as you guys have been talking.
Yeah.
I think the kind of the insider knowledge is what actually happens when you get inside. That's the thing, that whole transformational experience, the fact that there's a whole team of dedicated specialists, walking you through the whole thing. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we've got a 4.9 star rating on Trustpilot, is that transformational experience. The transformational experience doesn't just happen at the moment that people decide to move forward. That happens as they go through the process, and as they suddenly realize they've gone from indecision to a multi-property portfolio, and life and everything starts to explode in a river of energy and abundance and prosperity. And that's the thing that happens. And I mean, personally, I've seen that happen with like a bunch of our clients. I'm thinking of like Sandy, because I spoke to Sandy before you guys come on board. I spoke to Sandy before, when she was coming on board. Now she's living the life that she wants. All her properties are paying for rent. She lives like rent free in the dream home, basically. Amanda is up to like 5 properties or something in 12 months, and she's like in her mid-20s, and she's about to, once she's kind of built the portfolio to 6, I think it is, she's about to go hike the Pacific Crest Trail and just like go and live her best life. And it's like, whoa, like these are wild, wild transformations, Yeah.
And what you're saying there, I was sort of go a little bit deeper at, everybody that comes in gets assigned their own team. It's a very personalized experience. But beyond that, the team and everyone else, like us, right through to, to everyone that works here, is the quality of the humans creates the experience, as well as obviously the processes and the practices and the quality of the humans. People want to be around us. And I've had a lot of people, when they speak to us initially, are so excited to be in this conversation, and then they have that experience moving forward, like that transformational holding, and it's fun, and we're actually doing what we promise. So
yeah, awesome. So you wanted to say something, Nicky, or?
Yeah, I want to articulate something, and it's a bit meta, but I'm going to go.
Just go full meta. Let's go omnidimensional.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Totally.
Let's get freaky.
So I had an experience during the process of acquiring our first investment property together. I had this it was a sliding door aha moment, and it was the fact that we were actually in the driver's seat of creating our reality in that moment, and that there was nobody sitting there behind in a big giant chair ready to stamp no on our, like it was like, no, it was an experience that I realized that behind the scenes, because obviously there's a whole bunch of things that happen, all kind of negotiations and conversations and things are going on, getting your finance sorted. Obviously that's hugely important. And there's a process in that. And I think fundamentally we all, as humans, we don't want to be rejected. None of us want to be rejected. We all want to feel like, yes, you can move forward. And I had this realization that there was no big brother or big whatever, Charlton Heston behind up in the clouds, whatever, going, no, you will not pass. But in fact, it was like behind the scenes, there's a string of humans that are all doing their job, ticking their boxes, and all we needed to do was actually just get everything lined up.
Be crystal clear.
Be clear. Get all our numbers and everything that they asked of us, pull it all together, and ye shall pass.
Yeah.
And ta-da! And it was like this huge moment of realization that there's no one body that's going, no, you will not. But yet it was a string of humans that are behind that those doors that we don't see, that literally just doing their work, and as long as we do our job, then we're going to pass through. And that was the moment of
promised land.
And here we are. And and now it's like we've got momentum. We've done it, and we're on to our second, and we're going to have our third by the end of the year. And yeah,
it's awesome, isn't it? Right? Because what you're talking about is, well, I was feeling it too. And I've been through those moments too, where all of a sudden you realize that you're in a position where you're sitting there. Everything that you want in life is in front of you. You can see everything. You can see everything that you want to create, experience, all of that kind of stuff is right in front of you. And there are no more obstacles left. And the only thing that you need to do is hold on to your dream and lean forward, and you can have whatever it is that you want. And it's wicked. When all of a sudden you have that moment, it feels like you've jumped on a roller coaster, but the roller coaster is taking you to like the most beautiful place that you could ever possibly imagine. It's like, oh my God, this is what
jumping on's the hardest thing. It's like,
too right. Yeah. Jumping on's scary, right?
Great. What about this? What about that? Or whatever, like
there's
jump
all
on.
of those little there's all those people get stuck in the details. All the little details. Oh, well, the interest rate, this and that. It's like that stuff doesn't matter.
Oh, details don't matter. Yeah. So we got property managers that email us and they're like, hey, do you want to do this thing? I'm like, just do it all. Just swing for the fences. I'm not counting the dollars. Like if what the tenant needs a thing, sweet. I want them to have a good life. I want them to be good tenants. I want to take care of them. I want to be that person that can make life great for them. And if it costs $150 or $300, I mean, I'm not counting that against the rent and then going, am I up or down to? I mean, who cares? Who cares? Let's think big. Let's move. Let's think abundantly.
Through this little stuff. That's actually one of the biggest things that gets in people's way when they're actually, to answer your question before, it actually gets in people's way is counting pennies and getting stuck on the little things when we're holding a bigger vision, and we'll stream through that stuff. That stuff doesn't make sense when you're on the steam train.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so what does success look like to you guys? Like, what is that kind of like light that at the end? What's at the end of that kind of roller coaster for you guys? Where do you guys want to end up?
On a big property somewhere. But beyond that, it's all about who I'm being. So it's not necessarily about, well, what I'm doing is a representation of who I'm being. And so success to me is actually being a truly aligned, integrous, radically responsible human being. And I'm still on the path to that. And my work here at Dashdot is waking more of that up within myself, and then and ensuring and awakening more of that up in the process that I'm involved in with the advisory team and the people I work with. When I can see that in fruition, in deeper fruition than it even currently is, that to me, well, it's already successful because I'm already in a successful company that's aligned to that. But more of that is more success to me. And then being on a beautiful big property somewhere. Yeah. That to me is really, that's my purpose.
Awesome.
Beyond the job.
What about you, Nicky? Can you top that? That was beautiful.
I love that. I think success to me is being integrated in my life. So my work life and my life are one. The person I am in my work is the person I am when I'm not working. It's not a huge segregation and separation. It's unity. And so for me, I think it's a process of continual evolvement and transformation in myself, and then sharing that out with others and how I'm showing up, which is similar to what Natalie's just shared, but in a different way.
We're committed to that.
It's not about necessarily what I have, although, it's really important to me. I've got a 13-year-old son, and it's really important to me that I model to him the kind of life and opportunities and how to go about life. It's just about showing up and being really present here, and not and finding a level of fulfillment in the moment, and not necessarily striving for what's ahead. Yes, it's all going to be beautiful, but it already is beautiful. So
nice. In the last let's say 7 years since you guys met. Let's use that as a time. In the last 7 years, what new belief, new habit, or behavior, or has most improved your life?
Good question.
There's a follow up to this question as well. So,
I think for me, it's there's been a few instances along the way, probably more at a personal note, that where I've maybe stayed in situations, or based on my perceived expectation of others and what they're going to think of me, right? Rather than actually being true to myself. And when I've been true to myself, and that process is a constant evolution and sometimes that's not the easy path forward. It hasn't been the easy path forward, but it's been the most rewarding and transformational for me and for everyone around me as well.
So believing in yourself.
Being true to
being true to yourself, sorry.
Yeah, being true to myself. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it sounds simple, but it's tough. Like actually genuinely being true to yourself, really doing that is, people give it lip service, but it's tough.
Completely against what's considered okay.
Oh God, yeah. There's so much bullshit that gets in the way of people being able to do that. That's for sure. What about you, Natalie?
I was trying to wrap my head around what, and it's actually quite clear. Really, my body has been my tool, my teacher, and my tool. My teacher. So coming back into my body's had quite a few things going on. I've been very meta in my life. I've really explored, sort of multidimensionalities and been in that space that I had to learn to be in my body, and then being in my body has helped manifest more physical things in my life. So how, investments and really setting myself up and giving myself more stability than I've had before. So that's been it for me.
Nice. Yeah. A couple of things. I want to talk about manifestation, but just quickly, you're talking about multidimensionality. And I just want to say, we've just discovered that price formation in the real estate market operates in 4 dimensions.
Oh man, that's
it's next level.
Yeah. What's that? Yeah.
What's
price formation exactly?
So what is the true actual price of any one thing, right? Which is dynamic by nature. So what that means is that the moment that you know it, it is also not that, because the knowing changes the being. And so So it is so price formation in the real estate market simultaneously is and is not at the same time, and also operates in 4 dimensions. And we're building a model around that, which is pretty fun.
This is why we're here.
Yeah,
absolutely. Quantum physics.
Totally. And the real estate market is a fractal. So, there's all of this stuff that ties in with, you talk about meta, you talk about, all of these kind of like multidimensional things, and like that level of like spiritual being and that level of, higher to lower, like the whole idea of a fractal is it's a something that is self-similar at different scales. It's like, it's the truth. It is the heart and soul of everything that is the universe, that it is true is fractal. It goes on a universal level down to a quantum level. All of that is true. And that's the things that we try and that's the path to getting what you want. But fascinatingly, really fascinatingly, it turns out that the real estate market is operating on those same principles, on those same fractal, quantum to macro. It's wild.
Nothing escapes it. Nothing ultimately is not multidimensional, but it sounds like there's more. So there was some more consciousness around that concept that allowed it to be more clearly defined.
We're understanding it more. We're understanding it. It already is. We haven't made it. We're just understanding how it actually is. Its true state. Let's talk about manifestation, right? So do you guys have any habits or rituals around manifestation? You mentioned, Natalie, about manifesting things and stuff like that. Is that a practice, or do you kind of want to talk to that for a little bit?
Sure. I think I've been through the term manifestation got quite cool. I don't know about, it's always been around. We've always been doing it. And I think I sort of joined the club 15 years ago and was teaching it for a little bit. I think I'd go beyond that now. And it's about who we're being, but there are still practices that I'm very and really started to tap back into. And the most powerful, if you want to call it manifestation practice that I know of, is the act and the practice of radical responsibility, which is a very deep practice of clearing and forgiving self, others, and the world around us, that actually clears everything in our space, which inherently brings in the best possible opportunities. I don't need to necessarily think. When we add our mind too much into what we want to create, we actually can sometimes get in the way. This is where manifestation is a little bit old school in some ways. You can actually get in the way of what's actually much better and what's actually here for us. And I think that's how Dashdot came into my life. I mean, there's other awesome things in my life too, but Dashdot's one of them.
Yeah, awesome. Nikki, do you want to, before I chime in, do you want to say anything to
that? No, go for it.
So I think you touched on a really interesting thing there, like manifestation, like the word. Instantly people would be thinking like, they're just like, there's some like woo garbage, like everyone's like, yeah, bullshit. Or just believe and you can have it. And it's got all these connotations of being complete and utter garbage. Me personally, way before I even knew what manifestation was, and only in reflection and looking backwards, I've been manifesting shit my whole life. Like I remember when I broke my back, and I'd never been to a music festival before, and I was laying in bed and I had nothing left but music, right? And so all I had was music, and I was listening to all this music because I couldn't go anywhere. And I realized that I wanted to kind of pursue a pathway in that, and I wanted to create festivals and do all this kind of stuff. Never been to one, didn't even know what they were like. And I actually wrote a list of all of the festivals that I wanted to work at in the world. And I ended up, and I wrote it down, and I don't know, forgot about it or whatever. And it was about, I don't know, maybe 10 years later or something like that, I realized I ticked off all of them bar one off the list. And I was like, oh, wow, that's wild. But I also think that there's a whole big piece there. And you have to have, it's not about trying to like wish things into existence. Yeah. I actually believe it's about getting out of the way. Like if you just get out of the way, right? Like it's all happening for you to create something awesome. It's
all happening for us. Yeah. And that's actually, there was a point I was making, like the clearing of the stuff that's actually what the radical responsibility is, clearing the stuff that's in the way. So you get out of the way so it can show up. And then those visions that you may have or something better comes through you. And embodying, like it sounds like you were embodying a vision and a feeling that was coming through you. And that's how it showed up in perfect order.
Yeah. But there's one of my favorite books on this, because it's more specifically around like how to clear out that, like how to get into a state where that you have that flow, is actually a book called The 7 Laws of Spiritual Success by Deepak Chopra. There's loads of books and stuff out there. But what I like about that book is there's 7 steps in order. And if you just kind of do those things, then everything starts to flow. And it does feel a little bit like magic. Like when I first did it, I was feeling pretty stuck and confused. And like, it was not that long ago. And I was like, I just felt like all this like noise and all this kind of stuff. And I read the book, and I've probably read that book, I don't know, maybe 15 times now, I reckon. Like anytime I feel a little bit stuck, I'm just like, I kind of go through it. I go through it quickly now because I've kind of read it. I listened to it on, speed, and I'm checking through. I'm like, okay, what's that one? Like, am I spending enough time communing with nature? Have I all of these different kind of things that kind of open all of that up. There's another really great book that people should probably check out as well. It's called 3 Simple Steps. I can't remember the author, but it's just really so simplistically beautiful. It's just a beautiful book. And so much so that, Nikki, you were talking about those moments where you just like remember, like you just have those moments that just stick. I literally remember when I was listening to the 3 Simple Steps audiobook, I remember exactly where I was when that book finished and how I felt. I was devastated. I was halfway through crossing a road just down and I was just like, I can't believe it's gone. So it's one of those big points.
The 7 spiritual principles, I think that's what it's called by Deepak. That's been on my bookshelf for about 10 years. That's been something that I've referred to religiously too. It's really powerful. Yeah. Awesome. So I said I had a follow-up question to the beliefs question. Yeah. What is one belief
that you've had to let go of over the last 7 years? What is one part of you that you've just had to say, nah, I'm letting go, I'm moving on?
Well, first thing that comes to mind for me is everything has to be perfect. It's something I've been letting go of, and I think that's just come from the way, especially being quite driven, logic, rational driven, process driven, mechanic, like, getting all the systems in place, and to an extent you have to, very, very much, got a lot of yang. So I think that's one thing. And the concept of, one of my teachings is from the Bhagavad Gita, and it's literally, the perfection in imperfection and the imperfection of perfection.
Perfect. Love it. I love that. That's awesome. Natalie?
For me, it's the way I got there before is not necessarily the same way I'm going to get there or somewhere better again. And so I actually got really stuck when I was sick. I'd been further down the line in self-development and where I'd been in business and who I was being. And I got stuck for a bit. I was like, I have to follow those same steps back, but I actually have new lessons to learn to get back there. And so that's my biggest thing that I've had to let go of.
Awesome. I've only got a couple more questions, right? But one I want to circle, like, I want to hit you guys up with is, if you could wind back the clock, go back to your younger self, like maybe go back to when you were 20, right? What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Don't pull all the savings out and blow it.
That's pretty much what I'm going to say.
Yep.
You can still go traveling, Natalie. You can still travel the world, put some money over there and put some money over there. And whenever we speak to like 22 to 25-year-olds and they've got their shit together, I'm just like, wow, that just was not me.
And we talk about it with each other and we're like, wow, we were like, when we were 25, 26, we were like over in Asia, just living a crazy life, had no concept of...
I did not want to invest in property. I was scared to do that sort of stuff. I didn't want to be stuck anywhere. I had, just different beliefs that aren't really true. And so it would be about, actually one of the things would be about investing. I mean, that's on the tip of our tongue every day. So that's an obvious one. So put some money where it matters, and you can also do the other things, just maybe more paced.
Yeah, just learning. I think just really, really simple, like simple things. Just stash 10% away of every week of whatever you bring in if you've got a job.
Yeah.
That would be my advice to my 20-year-old self.
Practical things.
Yeah,
yes.
That's the richest man in Babylon principle, right? Just 10%.
I was wondering whether you're going to ask us the book question, but that was the first book that I had on my list to speak about, was The Richest Man in Babylon.
What's the book question that I was going to ask?
Like, what are your 3 books that, like, in property or investing that have kind of,
Well, let's do that then. Let's squeeze that question out. Okay, what you ask the question and then answer it?
Why don't we ask the questions? We're all talking heads here at Dashdot. We all like to have a natter, don't we?
We do.
So you're going to ask yourself, or you're going to ask Goose his best 3.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go there.
You're going to ask me what best 3 books. Okay, so the 3 books that have most changed my life would be, well, that's a big one. I'm not sure if I'm ready to go there, but I would say that Rich Dad Poor Dad, that was a big moment. A lot of people say that, right? That was a big moment for me. I was like, I felt like my eyes opened up for the first time. I was like, what? Yeah. I would probably say 7 Laws of Spiritual Success, mostly because I've listened to it so many times. I'm going to reference another book, mostly because it's, again, I used it like actually kind of like a Bible. Like I would pick it up every day and then just open it to a random page and read a passage. And it was called The Road Less Stupid by a guy named Keith Cunningham. Now, his story is really interesting. He's like an old, Texan, wizened kind of dude, but he built up a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars. But then basically lost it all, like lost everything and went back to zero. Actually went worse than zero. Went like negative, right. 500 million or something.
Wow.
But then, and then he used that as a big lesson, and he started documenting all of his lessons learned. So he's made a log of lessons learned, and then he's built himself back up to where he was, but he's done it in a way from a completely different place where it's like much more stable, higher integrity, all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, the book is really kind of like a guidebook on how to think clearly in amongst the noise. It's probably the easiest way to think about it. So,
beautiful.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Well, I've got my 3 books.
She's ready. I'm
ready for this question. So my first one is Richest Man in Babylon. Mm-hmm. That book I think well, firstly, you know, I do like the sort of the religious, you know, references and the language of that book I could really relate to, but also, just the concepts, the sort of philanthropic kind of selfless and giving concepts that book speaks to, I really resonated with. Secondly, it's a Robert Kiyosaki, and I know most people go the one that you just mentioned, Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is awesome. But the one that really was an absolute showstopper for me was the Cash Flow Quadrant.
So can I just point out something here, right? So the guy that I just mentioned, Keith Cunningham, he is actually the rich dad. So So all of the financial concepts that Kiyosaki talks about, like, you know, the EB, you know, or the quadrants and the cash flow quadrants and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. He learned that he learned that from Keith. Keith taught it to Robert. Wow. Robert wrote about it. So there you go.
Wow. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And that book was an absolute game changer for me, because I've been freelancing as a digital producer for many years, and I always thought I was running my own business. And then I read that book and I was like, if I don't work, I'm not getting paid. I don't have a business. Like, I'm actually not running a business. I've got an ABN, but I'm literally just self-employed. I'm over on the left side of the quadrant, and I need to get over to the right side. And so, and then obviously moving forward, you know, we had our business together, but even as you say, Goose, running a business, you can't step out, not just at the moment. You still can't step out. You're still but working towards that, right? Building that leverage, and then really getting over into the investor quadrant. And that's where here I am, you know, like I finally made it, literally like 15, 20 years later.
Awesome.
So super excited. And the third book, which is absolutely is if for any listeners out there who are, you know, 40 plus, who are thinking, I've started so late, this is a game-changing book, and it's called Start Late, Finish Rich by David Bach, and it's freaking awesome. Get that book. Read that book.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Natalie?
Look, I've read about 400 books in the process of writing a thesis on consciously evolving organizations, and I can hardly remember any of the practical ones. The ones that really stood out were the metaphysical, and one of them I read in amongst studying that is a book called Zero Limits, which is about radical responsibility, and so it's not, and that's just the basis to everything that I do. This relates to money, to anything manifestation, everything that leadership and aligned leadership and great business. So a lot of them are in that space. I also say A Course in Miracles as well.
That's really big.
Yeah,
that's big.
Yeah.
That's hectic.
Yeah,
that's the stuff that I get into.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, maybe we could do a mini series on that. Okay. Final question that I want to ask you guys, right? And maybe do it individually. So imagine it's your last day on Earth, like many years from now. You've accomplished everything that you ever dreamed of. You've created everything you wanted. You've achieved all of your dreams. It's perfect. But for whatever reason, the moment that you die, everything that you've ever created or achieved will be wiped from the earth, but you get to leave behind 3 simple truths, 3 lessons that you want to leave with the world. What would be your 3 truths? Nikki, you go first.
Beautiful. So my first one is actually from my great auntie Bella. And she came out from Poland when she was a little girl, and she grew up in Sydney, and she got into property, and she made millions, which at the time, you know, back in the 70s, 80s was, you know, huge money. Anyway, and I went to see her once, and I remember, I think I was about 10 or 11, and I said to her, and she said to me, "You need to go out and find yourself a rich husband," right? And I said, "But Auntie Bella, what if I go and make my own money and then I can marry whoever I want?" And she said, "Let me tell you something. Money isn't everything, but it helps."
Yeah, nice.
So that's one. Money isn't everything, but it helps. Secondly, I would say, in the words of my dad, again, the elders in my life, something super important. Learn from your experiences. Keep looking forward.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, I'm super aligned with that. So that's 2.
Yeah, that's 2. I'm going to just give you 2. I'm going to go the binary today, if that's okay.
That's totally fine. Yeah.
I've only got 2 as well.
That's fine. It's fine. Collectively 4. So we've found a good.
You are dealing with 2 of us. So I would say that that we have access. That I'd love to leave behind some awareness, and that each of us have access to an unlimited source of love. And our only job is to unlock whatever's in the way to access it. And the other, that makes me upset. Not upset, happy, joyful. The other piece is about responsibility, that we're each radically responsible for who we're being in the world. And to take ownership of that. That's what I'd like to leave behind.
Awesome. I love that. I love all of that. I love everything that you guys have shared, and it's so awesome and so aligned. Guys, thank you so much for sharing. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for having a waffle.
Thanks, Goose. It's been awesome. We love you. We appreciate you. We appreciate everything that you've created here at Dashdot and the opportunity you've given us to be part of it and to grow with it. And we're just super joyful and appreciative. Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Goose.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Goose.